What's up everybody, it's another beautiful day on the Dragonflight Beta, and today we're taking a look at the shiny new and improved Furry Warrior. I'll be going over what's been added, what's been gutted, and my overall thoughts on the new talent trees. Keep in mind this is a beta testing, so a lot of things can change, and a lot of this will be my personal opinion. So, Fury Tree. Now in essence, Fury is still the same old Fury, whirling machine of death, but now with more cooldowns and way better synergy across the board. How about adding our Legion artifact power Odin's Fury back on the menu? Combine it with Spear of Bastion, and why not throw a Ravageur on top of everything? So let's check out the talent tree a bit. Now on the left side you have Bloodthirst, Bleed, Single-Minded Fury, and auto attack talents like Fresh Meat, Vicious Contempt, Blood Craze, Cold Steel, Hot Blood, and Deft Experience. Fresh Meat, Bloodthirst always enrages you the first time you strike a target, and Bloodthirst has a 15% increased chance to trigger Enrage. So anytime you charge in on a pack and smack Bloodthirst, you'll enrage. Vicious Contempt, 2-point talent, Bloodthirst deals 25% increased damage per point to targets below 35% HP. Adding a Execute component to our Bloodthirst works great for both AoE and single target and adds even more value to our Bloodthirst spam. Then there's Blood Craze, Bloodthirst increases crit chance of your next Bloodthirst by 10%, stacks up to 5 times, and works on Bloodthirst cleave from your Meat Cleaver or, well, Whirlwind. So if you hit 5 targets and none of those crit, you get 5 stacks and 50% extra crit on your next Bloodthirst. Helps out with those unlucky crit streaks, and ties in nicely with the return of my favorite Azerite power, Cold Steel, Hot Blood. Bloodthirst crits generate 4 additional rage and inflicts a gushing wound that leeches X amount of health over 6 seconds. I don't know why, I just love this power in BFA, stacking crits, spreading bleeds all over the place with your Bloodthirst cleave, and on top of this, there's a lot of talents that improves our bleed damage as well as, well, more bleeds. Furthermore, we have Deft Experience, 2-point talent, Mastery is increased by 1% per point, and Bloodthirst cooldown by 0.75 sec per point. More Bloodthirst! Now, to make this more interesting, we can talent into some auto attack thingies if we want a less global cooldown heavy build. For people who want to just rather than focus in chaos while enraged, your auto attacks can no longer miss. Swing away! Single-Minded Fury is, well, Single-Minded Fury. While dual-wielding one-handed weapons, your damage done is increased by 5% and movement speed by 5%. Frenzied Flurry, auto attack damage with one-handers is increased by 5%, and auto attack crits have a 50% chance to enrage you. And with a full auto attack Single-Minded Fury build, you'll be smacking a lot of auto attacks all the time. Storm of Swords, Whirlwind has a 6-second cooldown and deals 100% increased damage, and Slam has a 12-sec cooldown and generates 10 rage and deals 100% increased damage, which ties in with the next talent, Annihilator. Replaces Raging Blow, or rather removes Raging Blow. Your auto attacks with one-handed weapon deal X amount of flat extra physical damage and generates 2 rage. So with this, Raging Blow is gone, your auto attack starts to slap more and offsets the loss of losing to two-handed weapons a bit. And the 2 extra rage per auto attack hit stacks up fast. And the aforementioned talent, Storm of Swords, gives value to Whirlwind as well as Slam, which you can add into your rotation instead of Raging Blow. Now this can be further improved by some class talents like Quick Thinking. Your auto attack crits increases your auto attack speed by 10 to 20%. And Sidearm, auto attacks have a chance to fling a sidearm at your target. That deals a bit of damage and bounces to 3 extra targets for some extra passive damage on both single target and cleave. Now how good a build like this will be is in the hands of the tuning gods. But as far as I've heard, the goal from Blizzard's side is to make a build that's a little easier and a lot less globally bloated, but might perform slightly worse than a standard furry build if you play that furry build very well. Now on the right side of the tree, we instead have more Raging Blow, Execute, and AoE oriented talents. And most of the Raging Blow talents here also works for Annihilator that removes it, so it instead buffs the Annihilator auto attacks. Like improved Raging Blow, Cruelty, Wrath and Fury, Raging Armaments, and Critical Thinking for Raging Blow portion. Improved Raging Blow, it now has 2 charges and a 20% chance to reset its own cooldown. Cruelty, while enraged, Raging Blow deals 15% increased damage as well as Annihilator in the auto attack build. Wrath and Fury, Raging Blow deals 10% more damage, and while enraged it has a 30% chance to instant instantly reset its own cooldown. Raging Armaments grants you an additional charge for a total of 3 charges, and Critical Thinking, Raging Blow, and Annihilator's damaging crits deal 5 to 10% more damage. Now, fully speccing into all Raging Blow Talons makes you a raging machine, and means we kind of forego casting Blood first, as we'll almost always be able to cast Raging Blow or Rampage, using only Bloodthirst as a filler if nothing else is up. Furthermore, we have Execute stuff. Improved Execute, good old Sudden Death and Massacre, as well as Return of the Ashen Juggernaut. Improved Execute, Execute no longer costs rage and instead generates rage. Without this, Execute is a sad button. Sudden Death, your attacks have a chance to reset cooldown of Execute and make it usable on any target regardless of health. Nothing new here, but I love this talent. I have ever since, I think it was Wrath? I want to remember it was Wrath they introduced it in. Then there's Massacre. Execute is now usable on targets below 35% health instead, and its cooldown is reduced by 1.5 sec. No Executes! Then there's the Ashen Juggernaut. Execute increases Execute's crit chance by 10% for 12 seconds. Stacks up to 5 times. So I mean, 50% extra Execute crit, pretty damn insane. Sadly, cleaving with Execute does not give additional stacks. That wouldn't be overpowered if it did. Regardless, this further solidifies Furry's spot as an Execute machine. Well, perhaps not compared to arms, but still. Like I mentioned earlier, you now have the choice to talent into AoE or not. So for this, there's 2 talents, Improved Whirlwind and Meat Cleaver. Improved Whirlwind causes your next 2 single target attacks to strike up to 4 additional targets for 45% damage. Whirlwind also generates 3 rage plus 1 rage per target hit, caps out at 8 rage. And then there's Meat Cleaver. Whirlwind deals 25% more damage and it now affects your 4 next single target attacks instead of 2. So on a fight with no ads, no nothing, you can skip these and further improve your single target damage. But when there are ads, Now moving down the middle of the tree, we have Rampage stuff, like Rampage and its upgrades Slaughtering Strikes, Hack and Slash, and Frenzy. Slaughtering Strikes, Raging Blow, causes every strike of your next Rampage to deal 10% additional damage, and it stacks up to 5 times. Hack and Slash, each Rampage strike has a 20% chance to refund a charge of Raging Blow. Funny trivia, the way it was supposed to work on beta was casting Rampage had a chance to reset Raging Blow, but it was bugged and worked as the talent does now. But Blizzard seemed to like this interaction more and chose to remake the talent. So happy quinkydink, sometimes bugs are good. Then there's Frenzy, good old Frenzy. Rampage increases your haste by 2% for 12 sec, stacks up to 4 times. Now if you Rampage another target, then your current Rampage target, you lose these stacks. All in all, this, combined with some of the Raging Blow talents, just fuels the spam even further, which in my opinion is the most fun part about Fury and what blew my mind during BFA Beta, where they first reworked Fury to be the spam monster that it is now, and this has only been further improved during Shadowlands and a ton more going into Dragonflight. Now on the cool downside of things, we have to combine both our class tree as well as the furry tree. So Odin's Fury is back, 45 sec cooldown, deals a chunk of damage to all enemies within 12 yards, applies a bleed that lasts for 4 seconds and generates 20 rage. On top of this, it can be further improved with Dancing Blade and Placeholder Talent. Dancing Blades, Odin's Fury increases your auto attack speed by 30%, synergizes really well for both a Titan grip as well as single-minded Fury build. Placeholder Talent, I've no idea it's a placeholder, but I bet it's epic. Like Odin's Fury now shoots out tiny warriors that blade storms all over the place. I can see that happening. And of course, Recklessness is here. Battlecry can be further improved with Anger Management or Reckless Abandon, as well as Unbridled Ferocity and Depths of Insanity. I know that one. Good old Anger Management. Every 20 rage spent reduces Recklessness cooldown by 1 second. Whenever you need Rec more often, Anger Management manages this. God. Moving on. And on and on. Reckless Abandon. Something's wrong? Reckless Abandon. Recklessness generates 50 rage and greatly empowers Bloodthirst and Raging Blow. Sadly, this is gonna shock them, but you can't have both Anger Management and Reckless Abandon, but you can have Unbridled Ferocity. Rampage has a 20% chance to grant Recklessness for 4 seconds. And if you know me, you know I do be liking them procs a lot. This is super fun to play with, especially when combined with Reckless Abandon, so you get those greatly empowered Raging Blows. But wait, there's Depths of Insanity. Recklessness lasts 4 seconds longer. Sadly, sadly does not synergize with Unbridled Ferocity, so you won't be getting 8 seconds of Recklessness when you proc it. Damn. But 4 second longer Recklessness means you'll have it up for most of Avatar's duration, and stacking cooldowns is usually where it's at. Then there's good old Rampage. Bladestorm is a thing of the past. I mean, we need to spend like 3 globals for every free global we have, and during Bladestorm you won't be casting shit. So Ravager makes sense as the go-to for Furry rather than Bladestorm. That being said, I liked Bladestorm. I mean, it's Bladestorm. So Ravager, 1.5 minute cooldown, deals a ton of damage and generates 10 rage each time it deals damage. Can be upgraded with either Hurricane or Storm of Steel. Hurricane, while Ravager is active, every second you gain 5% movement speed and 5% strength. Stacks up to 6 times and lasts 6 seconds. Nice brag. So again, synergizes extremely well with all of our other cooldowns, as not only does Ravager slap, but getting 30% extra strength when it's stacked up is just, I mean, it means everything else we do just slaps that much harder. In Storm of Steel, Ravager's damage is reduced by 40%. The end. But it now also has 2 charges and generates 15 rage each time it deals damage instead of 10. So the age-old question, do you want the slappiest cooldown or have it more often? These types of talents are great if there's an encounter where you have, say, ads spawning every minute or less than a minute, where you need a lot of burst. Well, having 2 charges will help with that, and getting more rage per Ravager translates to more Rampage spam. But wait, there's more. So much more. In the class tree side of life, we have Avatar, Thundurus War, and Spear of Bastion. Avatar can be upgraded with either Memory of a Tormented Berserker or Memory of a Tormented Titan. So Berserker activating Avatar or Recklessness cast the other at reduced effectiveness, and Titan activating Avatar or casting Odin's Fury activates the other at reduced effectiveness. So for example, going Memory of Titan, anytime you press Avatar you also cast Odin's Fury, you gain Dancing Blade for 10 seconds, which is the 30% attack speed increase, and you get all those bleedy stuff up on all of them ads. This also means that we have like a 90 to 45 second interval on our DPS cooldown kit. Every 90 second you can dish out all your big cooldowns, and every 45 sec a smaller set of bursty cooldowns. Tying in on this, you have Thundurus Roar. Totes not dragons roar. 1.5 minute cooldown, you roar, dealing physical damage to enemies within 12 yards and cause them to bleed for X amount of damage over 8 seconds. Can be upgraded with Uproar and Thunderous Words. Uproar reduces Thundurus Roar's cooldown by 30 sec, and Thunderous Words increases the duration of its bleed by 2 seconds and increases the damage of all your bleed effects by 20% at all time. Now the 30 sec reduced CD seems a bit wonky to me, as it offsets this from all our other cooldowns. Thunderous Words, however, seems pretty bonkers. Increased bleed duration as well as increased effectiveness of all our bleeds, like Odin's Fury and Gushing Wound. Oh my god, yum. Then there's Spear of Bastion, our returning Covenant ability. Rejoice! It still slaps. Can be further upgraded with Piercing Verdict and Elysian Might. So Piercing Verdict, Spear's instant damage and rage generation is increased by 50%. And Elysian Might increases Spear's duration by 2 seconds, and while you remain within Spear's area, your crit damage is increased by 25%. So have no fear, tanks can still pull bosses away from this effect, while you stand there in your spear feeling all sad and stuff. Ignoring that part, it's still super fun to play with, deals a metric ton of damage, and fuels the spam train. Then there's Onslaught. Slap your target, generate 20 rage, can be improved by Pulverize, Onslaught, Enrage you, and Enrage Yes now lasts 1 second longer. Not exactly the most fun button to press compared to all the other, but hey, you're there. You do you, Onslaught. Now on the topic of our class tree, a lot of love has been given to us as far as utility and defensives goes, and it's fairly easy to pick and choose what you need depending on encounter or content. There's of course a few DPS talents here apart from the aforementioned cooldowns, like Quick Thinking that I mentioned a bit earlier, Seismic Reverberation. If Whirlwind hits 3 or more enemies, it hits them 1 additional time for 50% of its damage. Frothing Berserk, Rampage has a 20% chance to refund 20% of its cost. Then there's Armored to the Teeth, 2-point talent, you gain strength equal to up to 10% of your armor value. That's a metric ton of strength right there. Luckily, you have to take this to get Avatar, so you probably won't be missing out on it. Then you have things like Shattering Throw or Wrecking Throw. Both deals a bit of damage that ignores armor, and this damage is increased by 500% against absorbs. Wrecking Throw has a 45 sec cooldown, and Shattering Throw has a 3 3-minute cooldown, but it also removes any magical immunities. So if there's an absorbed phase, for example, this has a ton of value, and if there are any immunes in PvE that we can remove with Shattering Throw, well, then that skyrockets in value. And War Machine! War Machine can finally be used with pretty much all builds, getting more auto attack, rage, regen, as well as rage on killing blows. It can also get Crushing Force, 2-point talent, Slam deals 30 to 60% increased damage and up to 15% increased crit chance. Only real use for this would be for a single-minded Fury build, since you actually might use Slam for that as a filler. However, on the utility side of life, there's a lot of great stuff we can get, like Berserk Shout, which makes Berserk rage group-wide for the fear removal. So not only can you pop it while you're feared, screw you Tremor, but you can save your friendos with it, if you have any, 'cause I don't. Pain and Gain. Anytime you take damage, you heal for 4.5% of your max HP, 10 sec internal cooldown. Bitter Immunity, 3-minute cooldown, restores 20% health and removes all disease, poison, and curse as affecting you, which can be extremely good on certain encounters. Sadly, no longer remove bleeds. And then there's the class Fantasy. If you spec into Heroic Leap, which you will, you can upgrade it with Wrenching Impact. Increases Heroic Leap's cooldown by 45 seconds, and it now pulls 5 random enemies within 10 yards to your location. I think I've seen this one in Diablo 3. Most likely a very niche pick and currently a bit buggy, but might see some use for stacking mobs on some encounters, perhaps, possibly. I mean, the best part of this is telling a Fury Warrior, by the way, you're not gonna have double Heroic Leap, and you're gonna have twice the cooldown on it because we need it at one point of the fight. That's gonna be the best argument to ever take. Love it. And the big one, Shockwave, which can be upgraded with Rumbling Earth for cooldown reduction or Sonic Boom for a damage component to it, or a bigger slap really. Very easy to get without losing too much if you ever need it. I hear AoE stuns has been used in M+ at some point, can't confirm it though. Overall, the talent trees for Fury Warriors looking pretty dope, very fun to play, lots of cooldowns and more synergy across the board. I like that they're still trying to give single-minded Fury a chance, and the auto attack approach for it is interesting. I doubt it will outperform the old standard two-handed Fury builds, but like I mentioned, it's supposed to be a slightly less spammy build for people who like furry but don't want to brew their coffee with Red Bull before they start the rotation. But like I said, in essence, it is still the same old machine of death that causes 98% of its players to forget what mechanics are, if fire is bad or not, due to them being too busy smashing the keyboard with an open palm, laughing maniacally anytime Rampage lights up. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know in the comments what you think of the new talent tree, anything you're hyped over or anything you dislike, let me know. And don't forget the usual stuff, like, comment, subscribe, and ring that notification bell, it really helps me out. I stream progression and testing on Twitch, Thursdays and Sundays, and whenever raid testing is up. Make sure to check out my Patreon if you want to help support me, my work, and my goal of upgrading my computer before Dragonflight. I also encourage you to check out the Liquid Women in Warcraft Discord for a supportive and safe Warcraft community. I'll leave a link in the description below. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.